Fastest first, thank you for sticking around for our extra setup. Look at this beautiful layout. Ah, it's so good. What a fantastic. I can't wait. I can't wait. So, for our last showcase today, we're going to be racing the Tunic Randomizer. I'm going to be playing against a newcomer here, King Samson, who's I would say has definitely has run Tunic speedrunning, but comes from a more randomizer background, where I have like no randomizer experience at all. So you're going to be seeing kind of a competition sort of a mainline randomizer runner versus kind of a mainline speedrunner. So we'll see how it works out. Welcome in, Samson.
Hello, hello.
Good luck to you.
Well, to you as well.
All right. I would also like to introduce a couple new commentators. Of course, we have Silent back, fresh from their True Ending run. But we also
Hello.
have Jim the Eternal. Hello,
Hey,
Jim.
how's it going?
What brings you to our commentary table today?
I love Tunic. I feel like that's good enough. But also, I'm just a big fan of randomizers in general, and the Tunic randomizer really speaks to me in terms of how it's laid out. And Tunic is such a good game, and I've contributed like a little bit to the code base. And yeah, I just love this game.
Yeah, I cannot wait to go back and listen to this. Of course, Samson and I will be deafened like the entire race, and I won't be watching, no spoilers, etc. But Jim and Silent together commentate so good. I can't honestly, y'all are in for a treat. I can't wait to go back and watch this later. I hope I don't just absolutely throw this race.
Same.
But that's fine. That's fine. However, we do have a special guest today, and I hope that his mic is working.
Me too.
Yeah. Last but not least, definitely not least, we have Dicey in chat to help commentate the entire run. Well, maybe not the vast majority of the run. We'll see if it's the entire run. Hopefully, I won't have an extra 20 minutes on the end after Samson wins. Hello, Dicey. Thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here as always. I'm going to do my very best to provide insights where I can, but as per usual, I'm always flabbergasted by the new stuff that I see in these. So I'm probably going to be no help. I'm just going to go, golly gee, gosh.
It is very funny that you will be like the audience's foil in in this setting. The developer is the audience foil. That's a good one. I like it.
Yeah. You ever think that maybe this is too fast? Just tone it down a little bit, folks.
Well, you're about to see one or both of us go very slow for a little bit. So
Yeah, compared to all the other runs that have happened today.
Yeah. All right. Well, so if you want to learn more about the Tunic randomizer, we're not gonna first of all, this run is going to be somewhere between an hour and a half long. We don't know because all of the commentators and both runners, we have never seen this seed before. We had the community pick it out. I think Adalor. Oh, I know y'all gave me a pronunciation guide and I can't look it up. But shout outs to them. They helped vet this seed, Jabber as well. They kind of worked together to make sure this was going to be a good marathon safe seed. I don't know what that means. I don't know how that impacts the decisions I make. So we'll just have to see. But yeah, community effort on this one for sure. And we're using a tracker that I made because I wanted to make sure we had a tracker that would automatically update based on the item log so that one day, hopefully, we could see a race like this happen. So this is a real cool, kind of mini fantasy come true for me. So it'll be very cool to see this. And hopefully that'll help everybody at home understand the progress that we're making as we go. Sorry, I said we had a website. Did I say that? Not yet. Yeah, if you want to learn more information about this randomizer, we have a really, really cool website that outlines all of the features and toggles and installation instructions and everything, and it's very easy to remember. I'm going to type it in chat right now. It's rando.tunic.run. That's it. Okay, well, I have to get ready to erase, so I got to close some windows. Anything I should say before I go silent, or can you take it from here?
I think we're good. Just let me know when you're ready, and we can start I'll give you the heads up for the countdown.
Yeah, we have a race time room open, so Silent, just let me know in there, and I'll begin the 10-second countdown after that. Okay, I'll see y'all on the other side.
All right.
Good
Best
luck.
of luck to both of you.
So anything we want to say before we get started here?
Yeah, I can just go over briefly. So they're going to be racing the TUNIC Randomizer. The goal of the TUNIC Randomizer is to find the 3 RGB hexagons like we've been doing in past runs today, and then find some way to get to the air and defeat the air, or they can find all the pages and get ending B, which is a little bit slower and usually isn't done in races unless that's explicitly outlined. So they're probably both going to go very separate ways. We'll do our best to kind of keep track of both of them. But depending on what items are where and what each player finds, it could be, it could be anybody's game. So
There's also quite a
anything
few
you wanna
options to
add,
the
Jim?
randomizer that we're not going to be playing with this time. Shuffleability is probably the most impactful one, but also the hexagon quest if you're looking for kind of a shorter run. And we may have some time to talk about that during the run.
Oh yeah, we'll probably have plenty of time. So I think I'll give them the heads up. Start their countdown, and we can get on with the race.
Cool. Let's go. Let's go. I'm so excited.
All right, their countdown is starting, and they should both start pretty soon. But yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about. It's like Samson. All right, they're both starting. Good.
So right at the start, we have the firecracker codes. I'm not sure if the other codes were mentioned much in the other speedruns, but there are 3 types of bombs, and there is a code for each bomb in addition to the firecracker. So we're probably going to see all 3 of those picked up for these runners.
Yeah, basically the most powerful thing to do at the start of the randomizer is to use those bombs to break bushes to get into both sides of the overworld, because that unlocks a ton of checks. This game as a randomizer is pretty open. There's a lot that you can do from the get-go. There's a lot of paths you can take, a lot of options. Both of them will soon come to read the mailbox. Ooh, so Rad picked up an item that you may not have ever seen before, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But he's going to look at the mailbox and see that it says Overworld is first steps, which is part of the randomizer's hint system. It tells you where some sort of useful item is, kind of in like Sphere 1, something that you don't need any other progression to get to. Overworld is kind of broad. It doesn't tell them a lot, but it does tell them that, they know where all of the Sphere 1 checks are in Overworld, and they should be able to find that relatively easily.
So specifically anything that doesn't need like another item in order to get to, as Silent was saying, which does restrict where in the overworld they could be going.
And we
I
see
also
right away
want
Rad's going left and Samson is going right. So they're both taking different paths, which could mean that one of them could find that first item
to. Oh,
sooner
we've got
than
our
the
first
other.
hint ghost on the left.
Yeah. So the randomizer has a pretty detailed hint system where there are those ghost foxes just kind of appear around the map, and they give you sort of minor hints toward like certain locations or certain lesser useful items, but still good to have on your way.
We're also seeing. Ooh, okay. Well, I guess we found our first step. The windmill code revealed our first sword upgrade. So one of the things that's really cool about the randomizer is instead of finding the stick and the sword as separate items, there are slots for an upgrade. You start with a stick, and then you get the sword, and well, who knows what you might get after that.
Yeah, the game only has one sword, so I think there's just 2.
2 technically, I guess.
2, right? Sure. Anything you'd like to add, Dicey, while they're getting started?
Did you want to talk about the spelling error medallion?
Yeah, we can do that. So the first item that they both found is actually sort of a custom item put into the randomizer, kind of based off of a unused item in the game. We call it the Death Stone. I think there are like TUNIC letters on it that I think were intended to say dash, but either it was misspelled or maybe you have the story behind it. But it says Dath, so the community has kind of just picked up on it and Just started calling it that as a little fun Easter egg. But what it does is when they use it, it will let them teleport back to the last bonfire that they rested at. So it's kind of like a homeward bone from like Dark Souls, if you're familiar with that.
We have our first death of the randomizer on Rad's screen. The enemizer feature, randomizing the enemies, is definitely come into play here. Having a turret pop up in that area where there's not a lot of room to dodge is pretty painful to deal with. The turrets are absolute snipers.
I like Samson using the homeward bone there to get out of the death scene. It's very good.
There was an actual like bone shaped homeward bone in the game at one point, super early on. I wonder if that mesh is still in there somewhere.
Silent, you know what you need to do.
I'm not sure if it's there. I don't know. I'd have to look.
Speaking of
the actual model for the Death Stone, I don't think is present anymore. So it's just like a little picture when you pick it up.
Oh yeah, right, because it was just like in that inventory item atlas. Well, you know what? While Rad was doing his run earlier, I did for the very first time ladder storage. And as part of that, I was able to find out exactly what causes it. So good news, everyone. It's ready to be patched. We can patch it out. No more ladder storage. Everyone's going to be happy about this, right?
Absolutely. As someone who
Please
doesn't speedrun this game, you do what you want.
I can't stop you, but please don't.
No, it's let's see here. It's line 4060 of playercharacter.cs. It's a thing that I was trying to fix a bug that's every now and again on Switch. A character would fall off a ladder during scene load because gravity was being applied. So I said, surely it can't possibly hurt anything to say, hey, are you on a ladder? Well, don't apply gravity then. And the rest is history because you can do all kinds of neat stuff now.
I love it. So Samson, while we were discussing ladder storage, has found the magic wand, which is one of the progression items. It is. I don't think it actually. Oh no, it matters for the ice slime, which we may or may not see, probably not, but is also just really useful as a weapon, which is a little hard to come by this early in the randomizer.
Yeah, they did have the gun in the shop, and I think I think Samson went into the shop. I'm assuming Rad did as well, so they have that available to them as well. Eventually, when they have enough money, it looks like Samson just got the attack relic, which is going to be very useful for the air fight later on. It's one of like the key items that you kind of want to see. It's not strictly necessary, but it's very good to have.
Man, it's so cool to see the difference in directions that they've both taken. Like this game is so open. You mentioned this in the beginning, but there's the idea of spheres in randomizers. The idea that if you collect everything that is available to you with no items, then you have gotten everything that's in sphere 1, and then the stuff that unlocks is now sphere 2. And if you do that again, that's now sphere 3. And some games have a lot of spheres. Some games go really, really deep. You need to like double dip into a dungeon, go into a dungeon, get something, come back out, get something else, go back into that dungeon, get a third thing in order to progress. And for whatever reason, I know for whatever reason, because of the speedrunner love that Dicey talked about earlier, Tunic is just so wide open. Like half the game, something like that, is in sphere 1, depending on how you want to categorize things. And I just love it. It allows for so much expression in terms of where you want to go and what you think is good.
I hadn't thought about it like that before as sort of layers of an onion or spheres, but I really like that. And you're absolutely right that it is that speedrun awareness that made it that way. Like even the requirement that you have the orb to get into the ziggurat by activating that fuse was something that I went back and forth on a lot. There might have been a version of this game where you could have done everything without getting any item in particular.
Wow, that would have been an incredible game to play.
Yeah, in the end, I think it made sense to make sure that people didn't get too terribly lost and sort of, corral things a little bit. But yeah, I hold that sort of openness is near and dear to my heart for sure.
So we have Rad finally getting his stick, I think, with the vagaries of routing for these two runners going in different directions. This is the first weapon that Rad has picked up with. And Samson has now picked up a sword in addition to the wand. So Samson's actually going to be moving a bit quicker in any situation where he's going to need to kill enemies. But, there's just so many places to go. It's really hard to say who's ahead at this point.
Yeah. Samson's getting another hint that says overworld is Path of the Hero, which is kind of similar to the first steps, but Path of the Hero just refers to like there is a good item in this area. Doesn't really say what's required or where it might be. So was the wand in Overworld? That could have been what that's referring to. Hard
I
to
think
say
the
though.
wand was in Overworld, yeah. At this point, that was like, a minute and a half ago. I couldn't for the life of me remember.
Yeah.
We did see Samson praying at the gravesite, so we have a little bit of knowledge of what's in the hero's grave. It was a quick peek. I'm not sure that I got all of the information there, but I think I saw the lantern in the hero's grave.
I didn't get a glance. I saw that there was a lure in there. That's all that I saw.
Lantern in the hero's grave is actually a pretty impressive set of randomizer logic, if that's what's actually happened. So the randomizer requires that you have certain items in order to put items into specific locations. So if, for example, the lantern is difficult to get.
Sorry, Red got Mr. Mayor, and I had to point it out.
Mr. Mayor's great. Did we talk about treasures?
I don't think we did. Oh, Rad's got there's where the wand was. So
there's where the wand. Okay, so definitely Overworld.
We can talk about treasures after you can.
Okay, yeah.
To cut you off, but you can keep going. Yeah.
So the idea is, if a certain thing is required for a zone, then you're not going to find anything. Oh, there's a blue chest.
Oh, there's the lantern.
Oh, there's the lantern. Okay, so I was wrong.
I think it was a page items. That must have been a page or something. Yeah.
But anyway, it not that it matters at this point, but it means that if you need to get the laurels in order to get the lantern, then anything in the Dark Tomb or beneath the vault would have to be even further deeper in that chain of spheres, so even less likely to be relevant.
But on the flip side, them having lantern now could mean that laurels is somewhere locked behind lantern. That they may have to go through either Dark Tomb or into the fortress to get laurels, or even just to get basically any other item that otherwise would be beyond those places. But yeah, the blue chest, that was the first hexagon, I think, from either player. One of the settings of the randomizer is like chests match contents, kind of like how like some Zelda randomizers do it and whatnot. But the hexagons specifically have kind of like custom textures applied to those chests, so you can kind of spot them from far away.
In addition to just the pickups, the item pickups being visibly what they are, it's one of the great things about this randomizer is you get a certain amount of knowledge just by knowing where a check is, and that can tell you whether or not that check is worth going for, which is one of the things I really love about being able to apply your knowledge to this game and kind of make decisions based on that. And you get a little bit of information about a hard-to-get location, and it can tell you, I need to route this in, or I don't need to route this in.
Yeah.
Man, these enemizers just absolutely... the enemies are so all over the place.
Yeah, enemy randomizer is pretty fun in this game. You may notice that there are some enemies that you might not recognize, and it's because the enemy randomizer does kind of bring in some, I don't want to say leftover or like unused enemies that are kind of still present in the game but not found anywhere. So if you see any that kind of look odd or you haven't seen before, that might be where those are coming from.
And most of those are just absolute pains to deal with. Very few of them are, unassuming or innocuous like the slimes. They seemingly are meant to be in low-level areas, but they'll absolutely clean your clock if you give them half a chance. You got to be really careful around like the little pixelated, not pixelated, but like the low poly versions of enemies. Yeah. Those are the most scary of them all.
The early ones when I hadn't, softened up as a game designer. Or actually, probably more likely just had very old values or like unrefined values for damage and hit points and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, like there's the lumberjack who just does a lot of damage, awesome. But also is unrelenting.
Yeah, that was going to be a sort of like Black Knight sort of stand-in, like a Dark Souls sort of style Black Knight, which is the meant to scare you away sort of enemy, but never really found a good place for him.
Honestly, it's probably for the best that he's not in the game anywhere. He was scary.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
So here we have another feature of the enemy randomizer. The guard captain that is normally in the spot has been replaced by the custodian. So you can see enemy names.
Complete with health bar and enemy name as well. A lot of the enemies don't have kind of, I don't know, like canon names in the instruction manual, so a lot of these are kind of pulled from either the name in the code or just something that kind of we made up.
And
I think custodian is one that is in the manual though, so that may be familiar to those watching.
I think that's true. One of the really interesting things about replacing the guard captain there is the guard captain is he's a little nearsighted, so you can actually just run around him and open the gate and then run past him, and he'll never be the wiser if you plan your path accordingly. So having some other enemy in there kind of means you're locked into a fight when you might not otherwise be.
Some enemies you can still do it, but yeah, a lot of them will just kind of see you and you kind of have to work around it. Also, were both of those enemies in there both custodians? That's kind of funny.
One was the custodian, one was the small one.
Yeah.
Are they both custodians? I'm not actually sure what the enemy names are.
I don't know. I think they're all just called custodians. They might be different.
Yeah, in the manual, I think that's right. I forget what they would be called. I don't know what the database, the XLS file has them listed as, though.
I do think that they do show up with different names. Like I think the big one is like wizard or no, custodian, and then I think in TUNIC it says like candles or something. I remember what I put for it.
Now, someone picked up the weird key thing that you use to open the plinth with the red hexagon in it. Is that just absolutely useless in this run unless you use it to like open that one spot?
That is exactly what it does. It opens that one spot.
It just opens one check.
Wow.
Even if you have like keys behind bosses, it just puts the red key behind like what drops off of siege engine, so you can still find that for like an extra check.
It's a long storied history of otherwise useless items that open exactly one check. Link to the Past has quite a few of those.
20 fairies.
God. So they're both even now in terms of their weaponry. Rad found his sword in the East Forest here. So they've both got a sword. They've both got the wand. I think Rad hasn't found his blue hex yet. I think he hasn't gone to Lower Forest.
He should be close to going down there, hopefully.
But yeah,
if he would have gone down there, he would have seen it. I'm just assuming he hasn't done that yet.
Yeah, it's easy to assume that he's going to head in that direction at some point soon, since he's already here. If he hasn't already done it.
Yeah.
And we have a peek into Darkting. I wonder if Samson's going to head towards
He has
Garden.
lanterns, so he probably could.
If so, this is a thing that I like to see. One of the things that we've included is a hint for the Laurels. The Laurels is the biggest item in the game. It completely changes the pacing of the game. It unlocks so many checks, and it kind of moves things around, or kind of changes the focus of the randomizer, if you will.
Looks like Samson's doing what I was wondering if either of them were going to do, which is he's trying to hit the Western Bell with the fire rod, and this will let him get into the temple earlier, which will be related to what Jim is talking about. So carry on, Jim. I'm sorry.
This is a super cool trick. This one's really inconsistent. It's hard to pull off. There's an easier way to do it from the other side of the overworld. I'm not sure whether or not Samson will want to try that instead if this doesn't work well. But yeah,
he may have pulled that lever already.
Yeah, that's possible. But yeah, so because Laurels are such a big part of the game, there is a hint towards the location of the Laurels in the sealed temple. So it's not easy to get by any means, but it is something that you're going to be wanting to go for kind of as soon as you're able to. And then with the lantern, you can go through West Garden. But in this case, with the wand, there's a couple of different ways to just trigger the West Bell from the overworld, which will really shortcut that whole process. That's a lot of West Garden that Samson's not going to have to go through in order to get his hint.
I don't know if he got it or not.
I don't think he did. I heard the dong from Rad's side, or the ding rather from Rad's side.
I think he got the one in Forest, but I think he's probably going to do the other strat. It's where it looks like where he's heading right now.
That could be. This feels like he's just going to check in and then try again.
Mm-hmm. Well, Rad's like going to the alternate setup for this. So
oh yeah, if Rad remembers to do it, that'll be great. That'll be a huge advantage for him.
If they both get this at the same time, that's actually going to be pretty good because it'll mean they're basically at the same kind of converging point and getting that hint.
Yeah, they're very close.
What was the decision process for where the ghost hints would be placed?
Just where I felt like it. Usually, a lot of the places are places that are either just like one-off rooms. So a lot of the rooms that connect to like Overworld will have a chance for one, or places that there are like no enemies near, just because like you don't want to be talking to one and having enemies like beating them up. So like usually like the entrance to certain areas, like the entrance to like West Garden, there could be one, or like Swamp away from the enemies, sort of. But they could be all over the place. There's, I think, almost 60 of them, but you only get 15 per seed. So.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Well, they both got the distant dong at the same time.
They both did indeed.
And we've seen that the laurels are at the top of the mountain.
Top of the mountain. Wow. Who could have guessed?
That's very cool. So I think we're going to be seeing some Golden Path entries soon.
They can't skip it this time because they don't have laurels.
That's exciting. I do love the
that's
Golden
cool.
Path
I'm glad
jingle.
that they're both here at the same time. Because
Yeah,
this is gonna really this is kind of perfect because they're both gonna get it, and then it's just gonna like explode from here. Like they could go anywhere and everywhere in either the same order or different orders. So
and this is such a an inflection point in the randomizer. The fact that they're both going to be aiming for it at around the same time is really, really great because it keeps them in pace. Like early laurels on one side or the other would have just been an absolute game breaker. And the fact that they're going to be relatively even at this point is just super good from a race perspective.
We see Samson saying that there's a sword upgrade in Frog's Domain, so I'm sure that they probably are both going to go there at some point for that as well.
Yeah, that seems very likely. One of the things that I like to do once I get the laurels is you've already seen that there's hints on some of the reliquary statues. So there was the hint in the East Forest sword access area that mentioned that Overworld was on the path of the hero. So 3 of those statues also have clues for the locations of the hexagons. So that is something that I personally really like going for. The moment I have laurels is checking those particular hint statues to kind of find out where the hexagons are and make my way towards the airfight at that point.
Yeah, I don't know if we mentioned it, but 3 of the heroes' graves have hints for kind of like major progression items. And the other 3 are hints for where the hexagons are, but they're kind of placed in such a way that some of them you need laurels to get to, and they're not you can't just like go get them from the start. You kind of have to work your way up to them. But it is kind of one of those things, especially in a race, where if you get set up, you can almost sort of like rush those hints and then figure out where to go next. And there we see Rad's getting the laurels. Samson hasn't yet opened the door, but
yeah, we saw an angry spin from Samson. I think he messed up the code once.
the telltale sign of I messed up the code. I must spin for 2 seconds.
This location for the laurels actually implies a certain amount of routing because it is very easy to use the laurels to get into the monastery, and the monastery has one of those hexagon hint statues.
Mm-hmm.
Share your wisdom.
Has it ever? Now I'm asking the game design questions now. Has it ever occurred to you to like author not a seed, but a configuration of item locations to sort of demand a certain route or, evoke a certain sort of style of play.
I can't speak for Silent. I know that's not something that's currently in the game, but there is definitely a history of what they call plandos in other randomizers. People,
Plandos.
Yep. People generating seeds specifically to frustrate or to delight. Mostly frustrate because randomizer players are masochists. So that would be a very cool feature to have, but again, that is a matter of somebody adding it to the code base.
Yeah, it would be cool, and I have thought about it. It's just having time to try and do that. But I will say that this randomizer also supports like multi-worlds with Archipelago, and you can kind of do that through there as well. So it is sort of possible, just not in the standalone version. But the two are very similar feature-wise. So.
That's true. Archipelago has a lot of tools when you're setting up your initial settings that are built into Archipelago, but aren't something that are available to the standalone because of the way that Archipelago does the logic generation. So you can do something like make a specific location incentivized, which means it has to have a progression relevant item, and you can limit certain items to be in certain places. And these are some somewhat complex tools that Archipelago's introduced, but there's just a lot of freedom, specifically with that kind of generation. I think we just saw the orb for Samson, so that now basically opens the door to almost everything. I think every check in the game, bar one, is now accessible between the laurels and the orb.
Yeah. Where did he find that? I was too focused on Rad's
It was just outside of the sewer check, beneath the well, just outside of the well.
Gotcha.
The turret guarded chest. Yeah, okay, so interestingly, I want to point this out. Rad had a similar problem to Samson. Samson just triggered the Holy Cross code to unlock a particular item in a field of flowers, and the enemies there are really not conducive to letting you do that with any kind of ease. And Samson had like a particular movement just kind of inching away from the enemies at the right pacing to let him put in the code in a way that triggered the code while he was kind of doing other stuff. And Rad had like a huge problem with it. He had to leave the room and come back and mess around with it a bit. So I don't know if that speaks to more familiarity with the enemies or just more comfort with the Holy Cross codes, but I think that's one intriguing small difference between the two runners.
Yeah, it does look like Rad is kind of choosing to clear out all of the quarry, whereas Samson basically just like left as soon as he got the hint and was like choosing to go elsewhere instead.
Yeah, and I mean, with how open the game is, you really can go anywhere. It looks like neither of the runners are taking the hint-focused approach and gunning specifically for the hexagon hints. But they've definitely chosen different directions to go.
I think Samson is, at least, because I think, yeah, the red key was hinted to be underneath here, so...
Okay, so that's one hint done. And he already has the blue hexagon, so there is going to be a green hexagon hint at one of two other statue locations, either in the library, which is going to be a little difficult to get to, or the cathedral statue, which is much easier to get to going backwards now that you have the laurels. And that will kind of clear the path for wherever the rest of the things are. Camera angles.
One of the other items that I think both players are going to hope to see at some point is the ice dagger, because using that in the air fight is not required again, but very, very handy. The air can be to beat if you're not well equipped in the randomizer, even with all the upgrades and extra stuff that you can get. Like the hero relic of defense that Samson just picked up, which I'm not sure if we touched on, but the hero relics in the randomizer, when you pick them up, will give you like a free +1 to that stat. And similarly, the gold trophies that they're finding also have kind of a random stat boost applied to them, because otherwise from a randomizer perspective, they don't quite do a whole lot. So they do get some passive upgrades as they play.
And that conveniently lines up to give you exactly 8 possible upgrades for every stat. Which I appreciate the aesthetics of that. So we're going to be getting another hint over here. This is Overworld is still the path of the hero, just in case you were wondering. Which implies that there are, in fact, multiple Overworld items.
Which I believe so far we've seen Stick, Fire Wand, and Orb. So I think we can safely assume that those are the 3, but we safely assume that those 2 were the 2, and, you know, one was the one at the start, so there could be more. Who knows?
There could be more, absolutely. As far as we know, all of the hints are currently accounted for. And Terry takes another life.
Did they go to West Garden?
Nobody's been to West Garden yet, as far as I can tell.
So there's
They
one
haven't
hint
needed
that
to because
they asked, right? Was that Samson's first?
That was Samson's first death. He's been dealing with the enemies really well, but he was cornered by a champignon, so that's gonna make things a little bit more difficult. By the way, that is my favorite enemy name, I think, in any game, so congratulations, Dicey, that was brilliant.
Thank you. It's they're secretly funguses, self-locomoting funguses.
I kind of figured from the name, it's so good. It's so good. I love the idea that an alligator-shaped mushroom is one of the more dangerous enemies in this game.
There were actual mushrooms as well, and given that Silent and the rest of you haven't found them, I assume they're actually gone from the code base, but I should show those off sometime.
I don't know, because we just found the centipede like 2 days ago. So
oh, really?
Could be.
Maybe there's still stuff in there.
But I'm not sure. I think our options are being. I think we're running out of new things to find, but I could be wrong because I thought before that we didn't have. Yeah.
So a lot to talk about in the past 10 seconds.
Yes. Surprised there are more swords. Radno has the librarian sword, which is part of the sword upgrade system that's in the randomizer. Samson seems to be going for the next hexagon hint. Looks like he's probably just honing in on those.
Unfortunately, he got the one that wasn't useful.
Rad's getting trolled by a crab or a spider.
Wow, that was incredible teamwork. So unfortunately, this was the clue that they've already got. They've already found the blue hexagon. So knowledge of the location of the blue hexagon, not particularly useful. Which means that the last remaining clue is in the librarian's castle, which is going to be a bit of a struggle to get to. But I think we have some information about the atoll that kind of makes them want to go in that direction anyway. Seeing all those enemies at the base of the ladder is just like, ah. That the crab is in the absolute worst location. Wow, that's impressive.
I think he pushed him into the wall just enough that he didn't care anymore. So.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
I just live in this wall now. Don't mind me.
Yeah, there's some interesting things with the enemy AI. There's a couple of enemies that, if you have them spawn in scenes that they're not normally in, it's mostly noticeable with the swarms, but also noticeable with the crabs and the other enemies. They just don't do what you would expect them to. Crabs frequently just do not move at all, and slorms decide that geometry is a suggestion and just fly through the floor.
Yeah, I wonder what that's all about. I mean, slorms, I don't know. It might be the crabs. Crabs have their own special nav meshes a lot of the time because they can go through the water, and also large crabs have their own special mesh because they're bigger and can't fit through certain gaps. Even though they try to sometimes, so I think the whole thing is just a little bit broken.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's certainly possible.
Alright, Silent, you need to learn how to add nav meshes.
I think they're fine how they are. They're just kind of chilling. No big deal.
So West Garden, a bit of a payoff with the extra swords, but also just a real hassle with all of these enemies. It's just been quite a struggle to get through this area.
Yeah, one of the things that I was gonna say is it's quite funny in this area. A lot of the enemies in this area are little like fairies that are kind of like hidden in the walls, and then they kind of pop out. But the enemy rando just like spawns them kind of in the wall there, so a lot of enemies just kind of don't look right in here. They're just kind of like filling in the water, but it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, the laurels definitely are a saving grace here. It's a much easier way to escape a lot of these enemies than just running around.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think this is Rad's first shop check.
It might be. Well, he's got the best item game right there. He's got the gun.
Pretty good.
Everything else there is not super critical.
Are you saying the best item is the gun or the low poly fox treasure?
The low poly fox treasure, of course.
Of course. Okay, good.
And now spending some time tossing in coins. So coins in the vanilla game, tossing coins into the well gives you the extra slots for charms for cards. But of course, this is a randomizer, so who knows what you're gonna get.
Good old fool traps.
10th coin is a page, not particularly impressive. So with 5 more coins, there's 1 more check in the well. There are a total of 17 coins in the game, so you don't have to get them all to get the final well check, which is a bit of a saving grace. But we have no guarantee that that last location is going to be at all relevant, which is one of the things that Silent is in his infinite wisdom has decided to help mitigate, which is through hint foxes. There's ghost fox NPCs scattered around the game. I don't think we've talked about them quite yet. And they provide a variety of different hints. Sometimes they'll let you know where a specific item is. For example, they can tell you that a relevant item is in a particular location. Sometimes they'll tell you what's in a hard-to-get location, so they could, for example, reveal what is in the 15 well coins check without you needing to collect all 15 well coins first. And sometimes they'll tell you that a particular location is not important, that it doesn't have anything progression-related, and I think that limits to anything that you can get in the shop, or money, or I think peppers are also not important. But definitely nothing that you'll need to
consumables and money and things of that nature.
Ooh, and we found the ice dagger.
Oh, yeah, I think Rad, or I think at this point they probably both have gotten that hint, but I think Rad, I saw Rad get the hint in West Garden that said Frog's Domain is Path of Fear, and what a spot for that to be, kind of just up on that pedestal there.
It's super good. Anytime you have a relevant item on a standalone location, is just, you know we've made good decisions in this randomizer.
Yeah, speaking of with the hint system especially, shoutouts to Silent and everyone else that has worked on this thing. I have the actual code base, and I can't imagine implementing something like this. So to go through and muddle through obfuscated C# code or whatever it is, I don't know what magic you're doing. What an incredible thing.
Class names and function names mostly, but also plugins that can let us see things that are loaded like while the game is running. So like things that are in scenes and whatnot, and kind of lets us interact with them, and essentially just playing around with that and then translating it to like code to replicate it basically.
Well, it's tremendous, and every time I see this, I'm amazed at what you've managed to do.
The Randomizer giveth and taketh away. Samson saved by friendly fire when a frog killed one of those cursed spiders, and then immediately in the next room, the cursed spider chased him down a ladder, and he was killed by a ghost.
Doesn't look like he's going back, but I don't know if he has a reason to, because it looks like he's just going to go for the last hit. It doesn't seem like Rat has any hexagons yet, so he might just be taking the clear every area approach. I wasn't paying attention too much when he was in East Forest to see if he didn't go down to get that.
I think he didn't. I think he just never went to Lower Forest.
Yeah.
He didn't have any weapons though, so it was a little bit harder for him to navigate. He didn't have the ways to clear out. In the library. Oh.
Wow. Well, this is a different game now.
Yeah. No, this is close to over. Is what this is.
Yeah.
So Samson's routing choices here of just gunning for the clues looks like it is paying off immensely. The library clue told him that the green hexagon was in the library, which is going to be the last questagon that he's looking for. So he's well on his way to being out.
The librarian tried hiding it behind that chalkboard.
I always forget about that chest.
It's the ultimate security system, is knowing that someone's going to be looking at your office from an isometric perspective.
Exactly.
But yeah, so Samson now has everything he needs in order to trigger the air fight, and most likely we'll see him going to the Seal Temple to drop off the hexes, and then proceeding to the far shore to do battle. Rad, at this point, quite a bit behind with no hexagons. That's an unfortunate situation for him. I know that he has the monastery hint, at least. So he's not too far. Oh god, there's that centipede.
That's pretty scary down there, yeah. Snipers of all kinds, and
I don't want to be anywhere near that. Oh my god.
Yeah, the centipedes got removed for a few reasons, but yeah, they look kind of cool. They were scary, but they were cool.
Yeah, that looks super cool, and also I don't want to be there.
yeah, I'm pretty much on the side of like, I hate centipedes in real life, and I'd never want to see one again. So when I first saw that, I was like, oh, do I like? So maybe I'll put a toggle like, no centipedes.
Yeah,
they're cool. They're cool.
Do that thing like they have arachnophobia modes in games where it's just models are replaced by spheres.
Wouldn't be the worst choice. There's a couple of spiders in this game.
Yeah.
Does siege engine count as a spider?
That's a good question. Just replacing that with just a giant cube would be probably make the fight. I don't know if it would make it harder or easier.
It would certainly change the
just
feel
replace
of it.
like the spots that can be hit with just two like floating cubes. You gotta chase them down. And then there's just like giant laser beams coming out of thin air.
Samson going through the various offerings that he's picked up over the course of the game and using the effigies for their intended purpose, actually getting money out of them instead of the usual speedrun techniques. To get enough money to put these offerings in and get stat points.
Yeah, I can't think of any other ways to get money in this game. Definitely not.
No, there's not, for example, a way to get infinite money relatively close to where Samson is currently standing.
The health bars, or stamina bars in that case, going off the screen was something that Jonah, one of our QA experts, was like, hey, we should at some point fix this to make it at least look right and not have it go off the screen. And I drew a line in the sand and said, no, if someone's going to go through the trouble of doing that, just let it go infinitely high.
It's great.
It is incredibly rewarding to see that on screen and just be like, oh, well, I guess that's how much stamina I have. So where is Samson heading, actually? I'm not sure at this point. Is he going back to the ice rod, or no? He has the ice rod.
He still only has the default sword, so he could be going for the sword upgrade.
Oh, that's true. We were told that there was a
sword upgrade here.
Yeah.
Which I don't think either of them have found. If it's in this chest, doesn't seem to have found it yet either.
Probably in the escape
He
chest,
got the sword upgrade from West Garden, so it could be either in the one-off, like back exit. Oh yeah, he's got one check left, which must be, I assume, that final check.
Yeah, I think it's in the escape. Okay, well, that's respectable. And I guess we don't actually have information about the West Garden sword, the one that was in the cave, I want to say, the sword upgrade?
It was right outside of the cave, yeah. I think that one's just Brad just kind of happened upon that.
Yeah, Rad decided to put in West Garden into his routing, and there's not a lot of reason to, given that they kind of skipped West Garden for the purposes of bells. Wow. Those Grenadiers have incredible arms. But yeah, Rad fully clearing Atoll here, and I'm not sure what his next move is going to be. He seems to be more inclined to fully clear areas rather than go for the specific checks that he thinks will be useful. So I'm really curious to see what his next step is after this.
It looks like he's maybe slowly making his way to the library, which would be a good move because he'll get the one hexagon at least.
Yeah, it's also interesting that, like, for all that he wants to be thorough and seems to be wanting to full clear each zone, to have left the blue hexagon in the forest just because he didn't go to the lower forest.
Yeah, which I don't think is his fault because again, going down there can be, if you're not well equipped, it can be scary, and the chances of there being something down there are pretty small. But it is kind of one of those things that you could skip something and then it'll come back to bite you later. And in this case, that kind of happened, unfortunately. But
so this has to be our sword upgrade.
I believe so, yes.
There it is. So Samson now has his librarian's greatsword. What is the actual name of this item?
It's just level 3 sword. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, the librarian's sword, which is definitely a bit of a help. In addition to looking fancy, it has some slightly higher range than the base sword, so that's definitely the kind of thing that's going to be useful in the air fight. And he's made a little bit more money for these relics, so he's I think well on his way to a good fight.
Yeah, the final 2 sword upgrades also give you just like a free +1 to attack, so it'll be helpful in the final fight for sure.
Take a look at his screen and see which of the relics he has golded.
It's all the potion and SP, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I think with the laurels, you kind of burn SP pretty quickly, so that might end up being a bit of a struggle for him in the air fight.
But if he opts for the freeze strategy, which looks like that's what he's going to do,
that makes sense.
he might not need to move around all that much.
That's true. With the ice rod, the fight is a little bit trivialized as long as you're familiar with the process.
Yeah.
You just don't want to parry perfectly over and over? Is that not fun?
I would argue that that's fun, but also nobody has a shield, which would make that a little bit more difficult.
Good point. Should have added a speedrunner's shield somewhere.
It's actually a good point that you make. Like, the air fight is difficult. It is hard. So it's one of those things that I'm personally, when I'm running the rando, like, I'm not going to engage unless I have some kind of trick. Either, full attack and defense with the relics, or the shield and Aura's gem, or the ability to freeze with the ice rod. Like, I need some trick. I need some boost.
Yeah, there is no clear, like, go mode in this randomizer other than just the hexagons, because lots of people could fight this boss in many different ways, like shield and Aura's parrying, or needing all of the swords and the attack upgrades and whatnot, or needing the dagger combo, or what have you. It all kind of just depends on the player's style.
But we're seeing a pretty good example of the power of the ice rod in the air fight. This has been really clean so far. Mana intensive, to be sure. Maybe not as mana intensive as it would be in vanilla, but
He had just enough, it looks like, to...
yeah, well done. Well thought, honestly. And 44 minutes is a hell of a time for a rando. Wow.
Yeah. And only 33% of the checks too.
Is this the power of being a speedrunner? No wonder I feel so far behind.
So I guess, does that mean that that is just having better than average luck, only grabbing a third of all of the possible checks, but still getting all of the critical items? Is that right?
Some of it is certainly luck. Some of it is knowing the randomizer really well and knowing where you can get information, knowing where things are likely to be. I would say there's a certain amount of luck in having the laurels be in a Sphere 1 accessible location, given that they're not shuffling their abilities. And then there's a certain amount of luck in picking up the wand early enough they can use the trick to get the West Bell without having to go through gardens, and then get that hint so that they know where the laurels are and can go straight for them. And then just the choice after that of getting the laurels and then just going straight for the hint statues, and knowing that that information is going to be available.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to juggle in the moment, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And, kind of touching again on the openness of this game, there's a ton of places that you can go. So the decision of when you are going to each individual place is very, very relevant. It's a matter of, some of it is just, make a decision, because making a decision is quicker than not making a decision. But also if there's a certain amount of checks here, there's a certain amount of checks there, I can get more check density in this specific location. That makes that location a little bit more accessible or more interesting to go to as kind of a first place. There's a lot of decisions to be made when thinking about where you're going to go.
Yeah. I had a chance to just building on that and answering old Garrett in the chat. I got a chance to try it with I believe Rad and Silent, sort of looking over my shoulder, because I had not seen it before, and so I was delighted when I saw sword progression for the first time, because that's just a fun thing to be able to do, swing around these giant swords. It was a great time.
Very cool. Well, Rad now kind of with sniper accuracy pinpointing the red hexagon, leaving only the blue hexagon, and I don't think he has the hint for it yet. I don't think he's gone to Cathedral in order to get that information.
Seems like that may be what he's opting to do now with the hourglass question mark.
Rad's just showing off at this point.
Yeah, did the hourglass ever find utility? But with the speedrunning community?
We get it in 100%, but that's just a pickup box. I think it's a very cool item, but I don't think we found any strict use for it, unless you're telling us that there is a use for it that we haven't found yet, in which case...
No, I'm all out of secrets, I'm afraid.
So, anecdotally, I can share that a friend of mine used the hourglass in the Caustic Light Room in order to make it easier to read that pattern.
Oh, smart. Yeah, that's its intended use, for sure.
Great. Happy to have figured that one out.
Rad showing off with the extremely extra ladder storage all the way over to that fuse, and then canceling with a fire beam off of it. It's very cool to see.
I wonder if this was planned. Rad, did you throw? Did you throw so that you could use ladder storage? But yeah, he'll be getting his East Forest hint now and wondering, what did I not get?
Yeah.
That's always the question in this moment, is oh no, what did I miss? What did I forget? I forgot something, what was it? Of course, he'll head that way, and maybe we'll see the Seeking Spell, and
that was an expression of frustration there, I guess.
Yeah.
If you had been more thorough, you would already be home.
I totally forget where it actually is. Do we know offhand?
We do. It's in Lower Forest. There's the 2 chests that are guarded by spiders. It's on the lower end.
Right. Got it. Yeah.
When you got to go around the ramp, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine we'll just see Rad heading straight there, and then an air fight on Rad's side, and that'll be it.
I was gonna say, is he gonna go for the East Forest teleporter? But he realized.
I wonder if he's thinking that it could be the Ooh, sneaky.
Did you not know that you could dash up there like that?
I didn't know that it was that smooth. I actually know that there are 2 routes up from that side, and both of them I learned within the past week. All right, so he's just visually checking all of these spots. He ran past a couple of chests because those weren't tinted blue, and from here you can actually
show off with the ice bomb here instead of the ice dagger.
Way to go!
My God, Rad, putting us all to shame.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
There we go.
Now stuck forever? Oh no, okay.
Jabber asks if they're using a location tracker. I don't believe they are, but there are like map trackers for this randomizer. So if a lot of the hidden sort of secrets and chests kind of are intimidating to you, but you kind of want to try it out, there are tools available to kind of ease that process.
You know, Rad definitely showing off the speedrun skill of equipping things during a brief cutscene. And getting ready for his air fight.
He did catch up pretty quickly. Like, I think he realized probably, he may have realized that Samson had already finished and is now just going for the hexagons.
Yeah, I think that information is visible in the race time rune.
Yeah.
So clean. Like, honestly, I love the randomizer. I've played a lot of the randomizer, but I don't have that speedrunning background. So seeing the kind of precision that you get on stuff that has been this heavily practiced is just impressive to me.
Especially that sequence in the temple where, I guess, pre-patch, that was something that was like 2 or 3 times frame perfect tricks in order to do the skip.
Yeah. Although I think that was dealt with before, like, the randomizer was part of the thing.
Right,
So
okay.
in the randomizer, that was not necessarily an issue.
That scene skip, taking the hit to get the orange power ring going. He's got the hot
Love it.
peppers up, and he's got the speedrun code up. Just
I was
putting
gonna
on a clinic here.
Yeah. This cadence, this rhythm is always so hypnotizing, you know, because it represents getting to the very end, and any mistake throws the whole thing off. It's always nail biting.
It's also very interesting seeing, you know, kind of the turning point for Rad when he saw that Samson was done, was like, oh, I guess stuff is more accessible than I thought, and then just going straight for everything that he had information for. And, you know, going from no hexes to beating the air in essentially, what, 8 minutes? 8-9 minutes? Like, that's a really quick...
Something like that, yeah.
Really quick comeback from where he was at. It's a 52-24 compared to Rad's 44 something? Or Samson's 44 something?
Yeah, he went back into his timers going again, but it was like a 42, I believe. So still both great times for randomizer. It was a pretty lucky seed, I think, for both of them.
Yeah.
But for the first half, they were kind of neck and neck, and then once they got laurels, it just kind of comes down to routing and where you decide to go.
Yep, absolutely. And it was so open too, right? Both kind of going in completely different directions at the beginning, and then converging on the laurels, and then heading towards the monastery together, and then spreading out again from there. And yeah, just really shows, you know, what each of the runners thought was going to be more important for them, and what they thought was going to be easier to get to. It's really, really cool to watch.
Hello.
Howdy.
Hello.
55 was like insanely fast, so 52 wasn't good enough to win, but I will take that any day. Crazy.
Yeah. 52 beats my fastest randomizer time.
This
Let
is
alone
actually
the
faster.
44.
both of these, I mean, we can't submit them because this is, I guess, let me take a step back and say, we also have a TUNIC Randomizer speedrun.com board, which is pretty silly because it's almost 100% random where the items are and how fast you can feasibly go. But the world record on that board right now is like a 53. So since somebody vetted the seed, we can't submit these, but I'll say both of these times are incredible. So GG, Samson, that was crazy.
GG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, my time could have been way worse, but I had a feeling. I was like, if I were vetting a seed, I would put a key in the library. So I just powered the fuses. No idea if the green key was up there or not. And I checked the hint and it was like, huh, good guess. This time could have been way worse if I hadn't made some good guesses, but I made some pretty bad ones too, so.
Yeah, one of the things that I found really interesting was both of you were just going in completely different directions for almost the entire game.
Really?
Yeah, Samson, you started off going left. Rad, you started off going right. And you two didn't really converge anywhere until Laurels. And you both got Laurels within a minute of each other.
That's awesome.
Nice.
You both got the distant dong on the West Bell within like seconds of each other.
Excellent.
From opposite sides of the overworld.
I was really hoping that Samson didn't find the wand, because it was kind of like, it was like one of those like, maybe he didn't come over here, right? Like maybe I got lucky, because I'm, Samson is known for going East Forest pretty early. So I was like, maybe, but now I feel like I have to rush East Forest, and now I'm behind if I do that. So I was like trying to, mix in some stuff that didn't necessarily make a ton of sense, but like, I didn't want to just be playing catch up the whole time. So I kind of had to decide, like, am I going to be just kind of retracing steps, or am I going to just take a gamble on like West Garden or Quarry? And unfortunately no keys in either one, but how about that Slorm Pit?
Oh god, that was scary.
I didn't see this one fit. Where was that at?
I decided to do a quick lap around Frog's Domain.
Oh, that pit.
Dude, first of all, the throne room.
Yep.
I just tossed some fire bombs down there, and it didn't do a ton. And there were like, what, 4 snipers? If not more, in that room?
I think there were like 2 of each,
16.
yeah.
Yeah.
I panicked. Because, like, I seen the ice rod, I went down there to get it, and then I, like, zooped past the item. So then they all just started aiming at me, and I was like, oh man, do I save him quick? Because I didn't save in Domain. So I got scared. I was like, I don't want to die down here.
Dude, I
so
knew
I
I
paused
was
for
like...
a second and thought about it, and I was like, no, I think I can get it.
Yeah, I knew we talked about this, I think, yesterday, that I never save down there, and I always get punished for it. And I had 3 flasks, and I was like, this can't, I mean, I've got some upgrades, it should be okay. And then I saw the throne room, and it was like, bro, what am I doing? And I quit out after picking up the dagger with maybe 2 HP. Like, it was, let me put it this way, like, I didn't win, but I'm like 10 out of 10 happy with that run. There's so many hype moments in my half that if you did anything cool, this was like one of the coolest races ever. So
It was super cool to watch, I'll give you that.
Yeah, as us watching you both kind of converge at Laurels like at the exact same time was like, it was very cool.
That's wild.
I
I
cannot
felt
wait to go back.
behind because of where the wand was. So I was like, okay, Red might have gotten wand and then rang the bell, like instantly, and then went to Forest.
Yeah.
But I was like, he still has to come to Forest, I guess, to get this bell. And the
Yeah.
blue key being in Forest, I was like, okay, maybe that gives me like a little bit of like an edge then.
When you were trying to ring the bell from near Dark Tomb, Rad was like making his way to the other side to do it from that other spot you can do it, and you both just kind of did it at the same time, and then we're in like the temple at the same time. It was awesome.
I rolled
really
my
cool.
eyes when I read the hint for sure. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
I should have just guessed that. But
I didn't think that's where it was gonna be, but
it was
I guess
good.
for a race like a curated seed,
yeah.
it's pretty entertaining. you know.
I'm glad it wasn't just in the open somewhere. I actually kind of, so this is gonna sound very dumb, but one of the reasons I went right at the beginning was because I thought I might have seen them outside the special shop, like in the opening crawl. Like I think there was a page there, and something about the color, like the reflection off of it, was like, did I see that? Like I wasn't sure, so I was like, I'll just open East Forest anyway. But then I ran out of bombs. Samson, if you go back and watch this, you're gonna laugh because I had to go into bottom of the well because I got anklet really early, and I was like, okay, let me just check a few checks down here, and I got 6 bombs and just quit out. I was like, finally, I couldn't go anywhere. Like I was locked out of West Overworld because I'd used the bombs to open
get
up
over there.
the forest. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, I guess I could have used an enemy, but I was like, I'll just grab some checks. I got lucky, got one of the big bomb chests or checks, but
I think I picked up a couple of little ones along the way to Forest, but in my head I was like, I'm gonna do this left side like Overworld because I seen gun in shop. I was like, maybe I'll have enough money before I make my way to Forest to just buy a gun, like worst case scenario, instead of having to get like bombs.
okay. Well, I guess we should probably wrap up. We're a little over our allotted time. I can't wait to go back and watch
It's
this.
not by much.
Yeah. No. We're good. I'm not like worried about it. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Well,
By the
I
way,
guess
I'm
I
not
should
voicing
ask.
about it anymore, so
Oh, okay.
yeah, they can actually hear me.
That's
And
good.
Rad, I do want to say you did a very fantastic job with putting all of this together. You basically had it down by the second, and it was just such a level of meticulousness that I just have to appreciate. So I just wanted to give you your flowers in that regard. I want to thank everyone who set aside some of their time to be with us today to run the game, as well as all the commentators, and you, Dicey, as well, for spending some time to be with us here right now.
Absolutely.
And so with that,
Yeah, let me reiterate.
Yep.
Yeah, let me say a few more things. So,
Sure.
Dicey, thank you so much for joining.
You're kind of roboting.
Yeah.
You're cutting out a little bit, Red.
That was
I'm glad it's not just me that's hearing the roboting.
I'm glad
Those
it wasn't during the race.
Yeah,
So I
me
was like,
too.
hey, can you- That's okay. Any better now?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Oh, there
You're
we
good
go.
now. We basically didn't hear anything of what you said, so you might want to.
Yeah, start from when you were
Good.
about to talk
No.
to Dicey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say thanks for joining, because I know we have Tunic it's been a long time since Tunic's come out, and you worked on it for a long time, before the game came out, and you know, I'm sure at some point you're gonna want to move on with your life, but in the meantime, dipping in to commentate or help out, in whether it's an interview or just interacting with the community, it's always super appreciated. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, Jim, Silent, thanks for commentating. Do you want to say anything before we sign off?
silent go.
I mean, thank you, Rad, for putting this all together. Like, Rad did so much work behind the scenes to put all of this together. It's actually kind of crazy. So, like, he deserves all the credit in the world for this.
Yeah.
So, but thank you for having me or inviting me to run and do commentary, and yeah, just thank you, Rad. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
I'll also thank you, Rad. I'm just glad to be involved. Honestly, like I know I'm not a speedrunner, so that puts me in a, I'm not gonna say like a lower tier, but maybe not the first choice for inclusion. And I'm just glad to have a place here. I also want to extol the entire crowd. Give everybody a follow. Everybody who is in this showcase. They're all fantastic streamers. They all stream the speedruns, which are just great to watch. This is just such a great game to watch. Even when the speedruns are going poorly, it's a great game to watch. So yeah, join up with the community, and gun percent is really accessible, so everybody can be here.
Hey,
Check
Jim.
out the randomizer.
Jim, you might not be a speedrunner, but you're a speedrun enjoyer, and that's close enough.
Yep. All the
Aw.
same. Really.
I'll take close enough.
Yeah. I really like that we kind of keep the randomizer and speed communities together. I hope nobody ever gets annoyed about it if they're only like in it for the speed game, but I feel like we can cross-pollinate a lot, and the enthusiasm
It's like they're
is
pretty
infectious,
adjacent to
so-
each other.
Honestly,
Yeah.
even with the vanilla and randomizer communities that exist separately, they do a lot of work together. So, anyway, I do
yeah,
think
we even added a
yeah.
vanilla mode to
Oh.
the randomizer because people want to play the game just with the quality of life improvements we've added to like tracking, you know, how many items you have. Although that's against the ethos of the game, so like maybe consider not having a like my number tracker of every check in the game. But
Mhm.
it's there. You know, people tend to enjoy the work we do, specifically Silent on the randomizer. Major shout out to like this just being like a crazy thought that you had one day and then turning into this just like absolute monstrosity of options and fun that we have together. So
Absolutely.
rando.tunic.run if you want to download that. And I guess just don't forget we have Fastest First Fall Fest.
Yeah,
In just
2
a couple
weeks.
weekends. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
So-
and I hear some Raccoon guy is going to be running Kingsley Adventure. I don't know who he is, but I hope he does well.
I'm gonna have to go find him because, yeah, I don't know. He hasn't played Kingsley's in a while. I need to make sure
Oh,
he
man.
practices that.
Man. Anyway, in all seriousness, good luck on your run in a couple weeks, and especially, I want to especially make sure to wish you the best of luck opening GDQ in a couple of months. I know
I
you're
will
gonna
need
do
it.
great. I know you're gonna do great. And with
Thank you
that,
very much.
I think we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. We are going to go ahead and raid the RPG Valkyries. So I think maybe just spam them with love if you have our emotes. I think that's a good way to go. So thank you all for coming out tonight. We really do appreciate your support. Please make sure you check out the Festivus Fall Fest Marathon happening in a couple of weeks' time, starting Friday, November 10th at 10 a.m. Eastern not daylight time, Eastern Standard Time. We'll be out of daylight savings time by the time that comes around. So anyway, for Radicoon, for Silent, for King Samson, Jim the Eternal, for Dicey, it's Oasis here saying take care of yourselves. Never forget that you matter, and we will see you next time. Have a wonderful night, everybody.